Hi everyone, welcome to Travel Guide and Photography. Larry here in beautiful Thailand. If you are new to the channel, thank you and welcome. If you're returning to the channel, thank you and welcome back. Let me clear something up right away. I've been asked by a few people if the photographs in the videos are mine or if they are stock. I've been a professional photojournalist and published since 1979, so all the photographs in the videos are my photographs. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about Angkor Wat. It's located in Cambodia. If you don't know what Angkor Wat is, it is the largest religious site in the world throughout history. It is a lost city of ancient temples. Now, I'm not going to talk very much about the history of Angkor Wat at all. That's not what this channel is about. This channel is to give you some information, and hopefully you'll benefit from my experiences and my advice on finding some places to travel to for your vacation. So what are we going to talk about? Well, first what I'm going to talk about is a little bit of the history, but not very much of the temples themselves. We're going to talk about Siem Reap, because you don't stay in Angkor Wat, you stay in Siem Reap, which is 3.5 miles away. So I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Siem Reap, a little bit of information about what it costs to get your passes. This is going to be a two-part series of Angkor Wat. Today we're going to talk about the small circuit or the small loop, and that's 6 different temples. Next week we'll talk about the large loop or the grand circuit, and that's another 6 or 7 temples. So this should give you a really good overview over the next 2 weeks of what you can expect when you go to Angkor Wat. Also, another thing I should mention is I'm probably going to mispronounce the vast majority of the names of the temples. I'll get a few right, but the vast majority I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce. So let's get started. Siem Reap, as I said, is where you stay. And I stayed at Theory's Luxury Villas. It was a small place on the outskirts of Siem Reap itself. I don't like staying in the downtown areas. I like to be out in the country a little bit. And it was only a 5-minute ride or $5 round trip in a tuk-tuk. If you don't know what a tuk-tuk is, you probably haven't been to Southeast Asia. It is the mode of transportation that you're going to find everywhere. Also, I should let you know that in Cambodia, the main currency used, at least in the tourist areas, and at least in Siem Reap and Angkor Wat, is American dollars. Even the ATMs give you American dollars. So there's really not much of a need to go inside of a bank. So let's talk Siem Reap. The main tourist area of Siem Reap is called Pub Street and the Artist Night Market. And they're a couple blocks apart. Pub Street doesn't have a lot of street vendors like other places I've been in Southeast Asia, like Vietnam and Thailand. But don't worry, there are plenty of places to eat. And there are a myriad of different types of restaurants. You can find everything from sushi to Mexican food to pizza to crocodile. One of my favorite places is called V Design, and it's pretty much at the heart of Pub Street. Really good food, freshly made, very reasonably priced. Another place that I really liked was called the Yellow Mango Cafe, and it's about 1.5 blocks away from Pub Street. And it sits on the 2nd story of a building overlooking the canal, and on the other side of the canal is the Artist Night Market. Now, if you haven't been to Southeast Asia, almost everywhere has street markets and street vendors. And it's the same with Pub Street. Pub Street, there are a number of small shops along with all the restaurants. And there's also a night market. And there's where you're going to find souvenirs, trinkets, etc. If you're looking more for clothing and art, then you want to cross over the footbridge that goes over the canal. You want to go to the Artist Night Market. There's quite a bit of different types of clothing. Also, you'll find a lot of different art. Everything from sculptures to wood carvings to paintings. I enjoyed Pub Street, looking at all the different shops, getting something to eat in the Artist Night Market, and I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy it too. First, let me give you some general information about Angkor Wat and its surrounding temples. There's a number of them. As I said, it's a lost city of ancient temples. It's located about 3.5 miles from Siem Reap, and it's a $5 tuk-tuk ride round trip, or at least it was from my hotel. One of the first stops you're going to make is at the office in order to get your passes. How many day passes? Depends on how many times you're going to spend at the temples themselves. I was in Siem Reap for 10 days, and even as a photographer, found it was way too many days. I think I could have done everything I wanted to do easily in 5. A 1-day pass is $37. A 3-day pass that you can use over a 1-week period was $62, and I got the 7-day pass, which you can use over an entire month, for $72. Also, when you're there, you'll probably be approached by a couple of the locals asking if you want a tour guide. I didn't do this because mostly what I wanted to do was take a lot of photographs. But if you want to learn about the temples, or if you want to have more of a history and background of Angkor Wat, probably a good idea to go ahead and do that. And if I remember correct, the guides are going for around $10 for the day. So let's go ahead and start talking about the small circuit itself. The main one is the Angkor Wat Temple itself. It's a pretty large temple, and it's surrounded by a couple walls. It's also surrounded by a moat. So in order to get there, you have to walk over a floating footbridge. And after you get off the footbridge, you pass through the outer walls of the temple itself. Inside is a large courtyard, and it has another inner temple surrounded by yet another wall. Once you're inside of there, it's really pretty intricate. There's some passageways to follow and explore, a lot of ruins to look at. But as far as photography, I found outside the walls of the inner temple was where I got my best photos, especially on the south side. There's some really nice architecture. You can actually get a shot with the majority of the tower showing. There's some large sculptures to take advantage of and photograph. And I found it was the best spot to capture a sunset. Also, another thing I should mention, behind you, you may notice a hot air balloon. It was about a 20-minute walk to the balloon itself, or I'm sure you could take a tuk-tuk for just a couple dollars. It was really amazing to go up in the balloon. It is tethered for safety reasons, but you go up 400 to 600 feet depending on weather conditions. The view was unbelievable. The surrounding area, which is all flat, seems like you can see forever. And just to get that perspective of Angkor Wat itself was well worth the $15 that it costs. So that's something I would definitely do. Now let's talk one of the main reasons why I wanted to go to Angkor Wat itself. And that was to photograph the sunrise. It's just unbelievably beautiful. And there are a couple tricks. First, I would not do that on your first morning. The main reason is you kind of want to scope out the area and see where you want to put up your tripod and your camera. Angkor Wat opens at 5 a.m. and there's going to be a line. There's always a line. My tuk-tuk driver wanted to leave at 4:30, but I asked him to leave at 4:15. And that 15 minutes made a huge difference. I was usually the very first person there. On my first day, I visited 2 temples. I left the hotel late because I wanted to beat the morning rush and the crowds. So as I said, I photographed Angkor Wat. I had enough time also to take a $5 tuk-tuk ride to Top Prohm. Top Prohm is an amazing temple. It's fairly large, and there are many ruins and passageways to explore. The rock walls are covered with very exquisite and detailed carvings. It's probably best known as the location for the film Lara Croft Tomb Raider. I spent about 2 hours there exploring, and I could have easily spent more, so it was one of my favorite places to go. The next temple I want to talk about is Bion. Bion was built from the late 12th century through the late 13th century. It's a state temple and was considered the center of the empire and the center of the universe. One thing that sets Bion apart, at the entrance, there are 2 beautifully sculpted statues of lions. Once you pass through the outer walls, you'll find yourself in a large courtyard. There's also a large temple inside of this courtyard, and you should take the time to climb to the very top terrace. One thing that sets Bion apart, when you climb to the upper terrace, you're going to notice very large towers. And on these towers are hand-sculpted stone faces. Every time I go to these temples, I'm just amazed on how intricate these carvings are, especially when you consider the technology of the day. I spent quite a lot of time there relaxing and just enjoying the view, but again, being awestruck by the towers. Our next temple is Baphuon, and I know I'm probably mispronouncing this, but we're going to go with Baphuon. Baphuon was built in the 11th century. In the 15th century, it was converted into a Buddhist temple. I entered through the east entrance, and there I found a pavilion with a wide stone walkway that led to the inner courtyard. In the northeast corner is a large library building, but the main attraction here is in the center, and there you're going to find a large three-tiered mountain-style temple. It's well worth the climb, but here, just like in all the temples, when you do climb them, take your time. A lot of the steps are very uneven, but again, it's worth the climb. Get to the top, relax, and enjoy the view. The next temple I want to talk about is the Elephant Terrace. It was built from the 12th to the 13th centuries. It's a large rock wall adorned with sculptures and carvings of different elephants. Also outside the wall are some large elephant statues that were also hand carved. The Elephant Terrace overlooks the royal square and was used for royal receptions. At the far end of the Elephant Terrace is the Leper King Terrace. It was built in the 13th century. It's another large rock wall with very intricate stone carvings and a lot of symbology. It was actually named in the 15th century when they found a sculpture on top of the structure. This wraps up my talk on the short circuit or the short loop. I hope you got enough information on Angkor Wat to decide if you'd like to go there. But again, next week I'm going to talk about the large loop or the grand loop, and there's another 5, 6, or 7 different temples that I'm going to discuss. The goals of the channel are that you benefit from my experience and my advice. If you've enjoyed travel guide and photography, please subscribe. It costs you nothing. Also, please hit the bell button to be notified of my next post, and please hit the like button. If you have any comments or questions, please list them below. I promise I'll answer each and every one of them. If you're thinking about going somewhere and I haven't done a video on it, please let me know. I've been to over 80 countries, and if I've been there, I'll do a video for you. Again, thank you for visiting Travel Guide and Photography. And if you enjoyed the channel, please subscribe. It will help me to keep the channel going. And also, spread the word to your friends. And let's explore the possibilities of traveling the world together.